Today, I wanted to do something a little bit different. As you know, part of the reason why I started uploading less and less on this channel is because I went to college, so I just got much busier, and I'm not even home for a majority of the year. Like, I'm not even in this room for a majority of the year anymore. But that made me realize something. I'm going into my junior year. I'm over halfway done. So I've been around the block a few times with this whole college thing. And I've began thinking about all of the incoming freshmen that are just beginning their college journey for the first time this year. And it made me want to make a video giving all of you guys that this applies to some tips and advice for this coming year. But today I'm going to be telling you the things that the other videos that you see like these on YouTube don't. Because most college advice videos are just packing lists, and most of them are all trying to sell you products that, let's be honest, you don't even need. So this is my advice for all of you incoming freshmen, and I'm going to separate them into 3 different categories. First, advice about moving in. Second, advice about the year itself. And third, advice about moving out. But first, let me tell you one thing. Buckle up, because you're about to experience one of the greatest years of your entire life. Beginning with the tips about moving in, and we're starting off with familiarize yourself with the town that you're going to school in prior to moving in. Now, I would say this first tip is a little bit more optional. Like, if you don't do this, there won't really be any consequences, and there are arguably some benefits from doing the opposite of this. But I do think that it doesn't hurt at all to familiarize yourself with the town that your school is in prior to moving. Now, the manageability of this varies depending on how far away your school is from where you live. But in my experience, I had visited my college town nearly a dozen times before I went there, most of which before I had even realized that I wanted to go there. And that was because I had close family that lived there, and it was only about 6.5 hours away, so not a huge road trip, all things considered. But not everyone is in that boat, and so if this is not really something you can do realistically, don't worry about it. But knowledge and familiarity of the town could help you later on once you've started your freshman year. Say when you're with other people and, you guys want to go out and do something fun, because that'll happen, and maybe you want to go out to eat somewhere, and you can be the person that's kind of like, I know a place, because you're familiar with the town already. Now for the big thing. I'm getting this out of the way right away. It's the thing that I'm guessing a majority of you probably clicked on this video for. What do I pack? And I'll tell you right now, you're never going to stop asking yourself this question. Because here's the thing. In college, you're taking everything you need to live on your own and bringing it with you. And that's a lot. Additionally, we're so used to our daily routines at our own home that we sometimes just don't really think about the day-to-day stuff that we really need to live. So if you are like I was when I was an incoming freshman and are panicking over what to pack, first of all, a lot of schools have packing lists. That does help. But my tip for this is to imagine your daily routine beat for beat, and it will show you exactly what you need the most. What's the first thing you do? You wake up. Well, I'm guessing you woke up in a bed with bedding and a pillow and sheets, right? So you'll need to pack all of that. Then you go to the bathroom, shower, brush your teeth. Well, you're going to need everything you normally use when getting ready for the day in the bathroom, just like that. Then you're going to get your backpack with all of your school supplies and head to school. You're going to need those too. And I know this sounds really obvious, but in general, I would think of those 4 pillars of what you absolutely need for college. Clothes, toiletries, school supplies, and maintenance items, which are just anything you would use to keep your room and your belongings clean. So trash can with bags, disinfectant wipes, dish soap, and of course anything you need to do the laundry. Basically anything that you realize that you'll need to be a functional human being in college, just like you would need to be a functional human being at home, bring it. And that's just, And so thinking about these things that you need most importantly for your day in the life of a student and human being gives you a kind of a good idea of what should take priority on the packing list. And it makes the entire packing process much more clear and much less stressful. Now you might be asking, what about the other stuff? You've got your necessities figured out, but what about your comfort items? Your room decorations? Well, all that is specific to each person, so I won't really get into that. But I do have a couple tips to keep in mind with this kind of next step of packing. When you're looking at what else to bring, consider things that you could bring to help you make friends. Now, this sounds very shallow, so you might be wondering, what do I mean by this? Well, let's say you like to throw the football around, or maybe a frisbee. You get the picture. If you bring something like that with you, you will find other people that like doing that too. Boom, you just made a new friend. You go up to someone and be like, hey, I want to throw the ball around for a little bit. But you can dig even deeper than that. This is actually one of the tips that I did learn from watching one of these videos about packing for college when I was an incoming freshman. And I did like this tip a lot. But bring something that you could use to help other people. They suggested, for example, a toolbox, like things with, like tools. So if someone has something that's broke or needs maintenance in some way, once they know you have tools, they're going to come to you. And guess what? Becoming your dorm's resident mechanic that's a highway to making friends. And I can confirm this too personally. My freshman year roommate was very good with computers and technology in general, and he had a lot of tools for phones and computers, and so I always went to him when I needed help, and a lot of guys in my dorm had the same idea. There were times when I'd walk into my room and someone was just sitting there, sometimes even in my chair, getting their computer fixed by him. One of my other friends had some tools as well to fix a rosary of mine that broke, and we were already good friends by that point, but if we weren't, I'm certain that that moment of him fixing it would have probably been the moment that we became friends. Now, I'm just going to say this now, but you will not be able to pack everything you want. Even if you drive a CRV like I do, even those cars can only hold so much space. That's why packing the necessities is important. But what about what has to get left behind? Whatever you don't crucially need for the beginning of the year probably should not go in the car when moving down. That doesn't mean you're going to have to go with it for the entire year, however. If left behind item can just be replicated by buying it at the store, then just do that at the store once you've gotten to your college. But if a left behind item is irreplaceable, something that to you is one of a kind, and you can't just get a new one at the store, then there are a few things you can do. First, if your family ever plans on visiting you, you could ask them to bring it down for you. Or if you plan on going home for a few weeks, like on break, you could bring it back from home. I did both of these things the last 2 years, and it worked really well. Just being able to be like, oh, I can come back for that. I don't need it right now. Now, there is one really big thing to consider with this. If you brought more things into your room over the course of the year without getting rid of anything, you are going to be moving out at the end of the year with more things than you moved down with. So, as to not overflow your car, you will want to do the opposite of this tip on the back half of the year. Either leaving some of the things you brought with you when you came back home for breaks, or having your family taking some of your things back home with them when they visit you. This balances out what you need to move back home afterwards, and both of these things make both moving in and moving out so much easier. Finally, once you've moved in and met your roommate, here's a crucial tip. In a lot of schools, the dorms may have you sign a dorm agreement with your roommate at the very beginning of the year. It's basically just a sheet of paper asking you to discuss different topics such as morning and night routines, sharing items, having the opposite sex in the dorm, etc. They are usually very thorough, so if your dorm doesn't have you do this, make one anyway. You will naturally establish certain ground rules as you start the year, but don't just establish these verbally and as you go. Sit down and make a list of rules and expectations and put them in writing, and even sign it if you really want to get litigious. That way, when you write it down, not only does it stick in your brain better, but now there's also written evidence. So if you or your roommate are ever quarreling over the rules and one of you says, "We never agreed to that," you can have your dorm agreement at the ready to prove it either way. Now, if you're worried that proposing an agreement to your roommate will make you seem uptight, I assure you it won't, because they're in the exact same boat as you. They want to ensure that their dorm experience is pleasant and smooth just as much as you do, and they'll probably be relieved at the idea of a dorm agreement. And with that, we move on to the second part of my advice, probably my favorite part, because this is covering everything about the school year, and I have a lot to say about this. So my first tip is, it's a big one. Don't skip anything during orientation weekend. Do as I say, not as I do, because I definitely did this, but we're not talking about that. There are a few reasons for this. First of all, you might miss some fun activities that could help you make friends or get acclimated to your campus. Secondly, this orientation week, boring as it may end up being, is the first moment that each student experiences on campus as a student, and they're all experiencing it together. So not only does that immediately create some common ground for you and everyone else around you, but a lot of inside jokes come from this week as well. I can think of so many inside jokes from freshman year that stemmed from orientation week. While you're getting used to college life, take advantage of any and all campus activities. If you ever see a flyer advertising something cool that's going on, go to it. Every school is different, and not all of them value residential life and building community there. I'm lucky enough to go to a school that does, and there's almost some activity going on every single day. These are also a great place to meet friends and maybe get a little bit out of your comfort zone. And I want to take a moment to say too, because you can probably tell that a lot of my tips help you make friends. And while that is definitely true, all these things will help you make friends, these are not your only hope of making friends in college. Making friends in college is almost impossible to avoid. You have to basically try to not make friends and lock yourself in your room. If you're open yourself to it, you will make friends basically without even thinking. Now let's talk about some activities that you might want to steer clear of. A lot of popular culture and media has sold us a lie with party culture, that it's fun and cool to drink and do drugs and hook up, and let me tell you, you don't need all of that. Of course those things still happen, because that's just what some people like to do. So if those things genuinely sound fun to you and you're looking forward to doing those things, that's your prerogative. But just be responsible and don't do any of it if you're underage. Trust me, it's a bigger can of worms than you realize. But if you're just feeling the pressure to fit in, to find a good group of people that will respect you and to spend your time with, you don't have to find them at the bottom of a Coors Light. No matter where you go to school, there is going to be a large population of people that don't party. So if you're not into that, you don't have to conform to party culture just to fit in. Now, I want to be clear. I'm not condemning Greek life or frats or sororities. I'm not saying that that is wrong to drink in college ever. Just don't do anything that you're not legally old enough to do. And other than that, consume and party responsibly and in moderation. Speaking of finding your people, I don't believe that any of you watching this need help with finding people you want to spend your time with. You've got that under control, I hope. But I do have some wisdom to share with you on this topic. There is one trait that I don't hear anybody talk about valuing in companions while in college. This trait is something that I value greatly in friends, in girlfriends, and it's something that you should value too. And that trait is conflict resolution. Look, you probably put up with 4 years of drama and angst and tension in high school. I know I did. Trust me. You don't want to bring that with you into college. And to a certain extent, this isn't going to be too big of a challenge, as college students are generally much more mature and grown up than high schoolers. Generally. But drama is still going to happen because we're human. None of us are perfect, but it is a good idea to associate with people who handle said drama in mature ways and de-escalate conflicts with ease. Some of my friends are wizards at this stuff. I have close friends that could negotiate hostage situations. That's how good they are with conflict resolution and de-escalation. And it's them that made me realize just how much I respect and value this trait in my friends. And so when you're looking for friends in your freshman year, ask yourself, if this person gets in an argument with me, or if this group gets into a fight, how will they handle it? Now, of course, I'm not saying at all that if you have a friend that is not good at resolving conflict, that you should just drop them. I'm, of course, not saying that. Still be friends with them. But I'm just saying that good conflict resolution is a very important trait among your friends in college. All right, here we go. The fun category, dating. You know this was going to come up. I could make a whole video about relationship advice, but I have one tip to start you off. There is no right or wrong time to start dating in college. But even week one, if you meet someone right away that just knocks their socks off, some people are quick to say, well, that was fast. But you have to put it into perspective. Relationship starting is a volatile thing. You can't predict when two people are going to meet and start dating because we're talking about hundreds of individual people here. You can't predict when and where you'll meet a potential significant other in college. So maybe it happens week one. You didn't rush into anything. You just got lucky. Many people say, oh, you don't want to get into a relationship the first semester or year of college. And while I do sort of agree with that sentiment, I think there are tons of benefits to staying single freshman year. Not everyone is going to feel the same way, though. Basically, you just have to listen to your heart. I know that sounds cliche. If you don't think a relationship is a good idea for you right away, don't even think about getting into one. If you want to go into your college open to being in one right away, then be open to it. It's simple as that. Just don't rush into something just for the sake of being in a relationship. Make sure that you're always choosing people that you are genuinely interested in and you know will treat you well. And if that person you just happen to meet, if that's someone that you just happen to meet early on in the year, then good for you. Okay, so this is likely your first time being independent from your family. You're on your own now, and with that comes a lot of freedom. Now, a lot of people, myself included, took that to mean, hey, you can stay up as late as you want. And while that's fun and all, there's also a lot of joy in freely being able to set your own independent routine. You get the same feeling of freedom and autonomy, but without all the sleep deprivation and bags under the eyes. There were points in the year where I just felt run down and ragged because I wasn't getting enough sleep. And that's when I finally decided to establish a better routine to get me to bed earlier and get me up earlier more consistently. Not only does setting a consistent routine for nights and mornings ensure you get a better sleep, but it also keeps your days and nights more organized as well. I know this doesn't sound fun, but trust me, your mind and body will thank you later. Also, it is very easy to fall off the wagon on this one, but don't let that discourage you. It does take a long time to break old habits, and it can take even longer to solidify new ones. But as far as I see it, failure with this kind of stuff is just part of the process. And that's not an excuse to let it happen again, but it's reassurance that you have not fallen off the path to a better routine. You just got to keep trying. Most colleges have a lot of different facilities in addition to dorms. They have other food places other than cafeterias. They have libraries. They have gyms. Many of these things you'll take for granted most likely. You might think that these are just some bonus options for things to do, but the truth is, you paid for all of these things already. You may not realize this unless you look closely through your billing statement for each academic year, which, by the way, please do that as well. I probably don't even have to say that. But part of that money you owe each year covers utilities and facilities just like the ones I mentioned. You might think that the gym is free because you don't need to pay to enter. You only need to swipe your card or something, but that's because you already paid for it along with everything else. So why not get your money's worth and check some of those places out, even if it's just a couple of times a year. It's better than ignoring them completely. And besides, So it's beginning to sound like a broken record, but it's a great place to meet new friends. Okay, let's get serious for a second. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. College is going to be harder than high school. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. In middle school, remember how they hyped up how much harder high school was? And then it really wasn't that hard. I think I actually had middle school classes that were more difficult than some of my high school classes, but that's besides the point. When your high school teacher said that college is a different beast altogether, they meant it. Professors have much higher standards for performances on essays, exams, heck, even homework assignments. Most professors have stricter policies on late work. Retaking tests? Don't even ask. But there's a beautiful thing about all of this. College professors aren't this way because they hate you. Because if they hated students, why did they get a doctorate in education? No, they're this strict because they actually care very deeply about you and your success. So they demand excellence. They're also more willing to help you than you might think. A lot of people are afraid to ask for help, and I think as a society, that's just something we need to get better at, is asking for help when we need it, in any circumstance. Now, this is not to scare any of you, and I believe in all of you that you can do this. I'm just saying that, yeah, this is going to be tougher than high school. If your grades are not as good as they were in high school, don't freak out right away. Just get back up and keep fighting. I know this feeling all too well. At midterms last fall, I was nearly failing a class that I needed for my major. It was my lowest point academically in my entire life, and it sucked. But I kept fighting and working hard, and at the semester's end, I finished the class with a B+. And the reason why I'm telling you all this is because in college, when you experience failure, it does feel horrible. It feels horrible. But the feeling you get when you dig yourself out of that hole and end up succeeding in whatever you were doing, that's a joy I can't even begin to describe, and it's worth every stumble I took along the way. So don't be afraid that college is going to be harder, because once you accept that fact, it actually does get a little bit easier to manage. So put up your dukes. Now we get to the very last section, moving out and beyond, because some of these advice isn't just about moving out, but it's about the years ahead. Now, if your experience of freshman year was like me, then you've probably had an amazing year, and when that ends, the emotions can hit you pretty hard. I haven't always been the most emotional person my entire life, but I won't lie, when I woke up the day after finals in spring to a mostly empty dorm room, I cried like a baby. And it wasn't only sadness either. Of course, I was sad that my new friends were all moving back home again, but there was also a sense of accomplishment that sort of washed over me. Like I was living the first installment of a movie series at the very end, and that first movie was finally coming to an end. You'll probably feel this way too, and if so, let it happen. Let those emotions run through you like a current. This is probably one of the most important years of your life, and you made it through. Channel these emotions into something. It could be anything. Do something that will immortalize these feelings you have about this year. I don't know, write a song, paint a picture, keep a journal. Even if you just want to make an Instagram post of your favorite moments from the year, that's great too. That's what I did. Whatever it is, do what you can to hold on to these moments forever, because they were likely very special to you. And if they weren't, that's okay too. One thing, this is a great segue, one thing you could do in this time is to make a sort of graphic organizer for all of your friends and family. You probably made a whole lot of new friends this year, and so when you're back home and telling your family about all of your new friends, that can be kind of a lot for them. So instead of them asking, wait, who's that person again, for like the millionth time, make a slideshow or something else similar with all the pictures of all your friends, maybe some cool fun facts about them. That way, they can connect the face with the name, and they learn a little bit about that person, and it'll help them recognize them better, especially if they've never met them in real life. I can confirm that this leaves a very good impression on friends when their friends' parents meet them for the first time, and they're like, you must be so-and-so. I've heard so much about you. My friends' parents have done that to me. My parents have done that to my friends. It's a great feeling. I'm in a massive friend group at my school. That's like 40-some people at this point. We make a slideshow every single semester now, not even just to show to our parents anymore, but because at this point it's just an inside joke with all of us, and it's just a good way to remember all the things that happened in that semester with ourselves. Now, you may find yourself in a predicament where you have to stay on campus for a short time while everyone else has already moved out for the summer. This could be for any number of reasons. Maybe you have a sibling who goes to your school who's graduating, or in my case, I played in the graduation band the last 2 years, so I had to stay as well. Being on campus during this time is genuinely trippy, because it will feel like a ghost town. Because of this, I would suggest staying out of your empty room as much as you can outside of spending time packing everything up. Because if you're anything like me, being in an empty dorm room can get depressing real quick. So my tip is, if you find yourself in this situation, get out and explore campus. You might even find other people to hang out with that are staying there too. Additionally, you could look for those people before everyone else moves out, and that way you don't have to make plans to hang out with them in advance. You get it. Just find stuff to do. Now that you've packed and you're heading home after your freshman year, I have a tip that actually will come full circle to moving out again for your sophomore year. If you have anything that you don't need to unpack out of its bag, box, bin, etc., keep it packed. For example, let's just say you have a storage bag full of sweatshirts. Are you going to wear a sweatshirt in the summer months? Probably not. So why take up space in your closet at home with it? Packing for college at the beginning of the year probably meant buying a bunch of new things that you may not have had room for to begin with. So why try to make room for it now? The less you leave packed, the less you have to pack again when summer draws to an end. Another tip I would say is, if you're willing and able to, renting a storage space is a great idea as well. I have never used one, but I've had many friends who do use them, and it seems to work pretty well for them. So that is a great option as well. Finally, this is more of a preemptive bit of advice looking ahead for sophomore year and beyond, which I just finished my sophomore year this May. It's okay if your second year doesn't feel the same as your freshman year. It likely won't, and I promise you that is not going to be a bad thing. Going into sophomore year, I knew that it wasn't going to capture the same magical feeling that freshman year did. And I wasn't even worried about that at first. And then once I got to sophomore year, it was great. Because in sophomore year, the experience is just completely different. You're now probably living with friends that you chose to live with. You might be taking less gen ed classes and more classes specific to your major. You're now more familiar with everyone at your school. Things are they're just going to be different. But they're still going to be great. I think that you should savor freshman year for sure. You should just suck all the marrow out of it like your Henry David Thoreau in the woods. But don't feel any pressure that sophomore year is going to be worse or different in a bad way. I believe that junior year is going to feel different from the other 2 years as well, as with senior year. And I think that that's just part of life and growing up, and there's something really beautiful about that. So there you go. I hope you found all that helpful. I want to say that none of this has been tested in a lab. I did not write the book of college. My only ethos here is that I lived through 2 years of it already, so I wanted to take what I learned about college those 2 years and talk about it here in the hopes that maybe some people who are out here about to take on this huge step in their life as well for the first time see this, and then it helps them prepare for it, and that it helps them if they're maybe a little stressed or scared about college. If this video is successful, I may make a part 2 because I think I have a lot more wisdom advice about college to share. But other than that, please let me know if you found any of this helpful, and know that you're not alone. There's thousands of people going through this exact same pivotal moment in your life right now, and some of them you're going to meet in a few weeks, and they might alter the course of your life. And I would say, don't be afraid of any of these things. Just embrace them. See ya.